So this tweet has been making the rounds. As president, this is from your illustrious leader, Joe Biden. As president, I will use military power responsibly and as a last resort. We will not go back to forever wars in the Middle East. Hashtag Dem debate. Okay. So some of his fellow Democrats have decided that they probably will not kill their families if they speak out a little bit. So they're feeling their oats here. Dems rip Biden for launching Houthi strikes without congressional approval. Some Republicans, meanwhile, couched their praise of the strikes in broader criticism of the administration's foreign policy actions. This is from Politico. A group of progressive Democratic lawmakers on Thursday responded furiously. They're furious. They're furious. They're still going to vote for that military budget, though. That's my editorial comment, not Politico. To President Joe Biden's move to launch retaliatory strikes against the Iranian-backed, you're going to be hearing that phrase a lot, as our friend Caitlin Johnston points out, Iranian-backed Houthis. They're never going to be the Houthis again. In Yemen, without first seeking congressional approval. The strikes marked the first major U.S. military response to the group's ongoing attacks on commercial ships since the start of the Israel-Hamas war. The Biden administration justified the joint strikes with the United Kingdom, supported by the Netherlands, Canada, Bahrain, and Australia, as conducted, quote, in accordance with the inherent right of individual and collective self-defense consistent with the U.S. Charter, unquote. Lawmakers argued that the move violated Article 1 of the Constitution, which requires military action to be authorized by Congress. Biden notified Congress but did not request its approval. Quote, this is an unacceptable violation of the Constitution, Representative Pramila Jayapal, who chairs the Progressive Caucus, wrote on social media. Progressive Representatives Rashida Tlaib and Representative Cori Bush echoed Jayapal, decrying endless war and labeling Biden's actions unconstitutional. Quote,
yeah, what are you going to do about it, Jack? What are you going to do about it?
That's it. We're big fans of the Kill Bill franchise. These people are as useless as an asshole right here.
Exactly, yeah.
The president needs to come to Congress before launching a strike against the Houthis in Yemen and involving us in another Middle East conflict. That is Article 1 of the Constitution. I will stand up for that, regardless of whether a Democrat or Republican is in the White House, said Profile Encourage California Representative Ro Khanna on X, formerly known as Twitter. Yeah, and these people will all vote for any military spending bill they're told to vote for. It's just, they like to talk. They like to talk pretty and then vote how they're told. Representative Ilhan Omar retweeted Khanna. That's. I mean, when you retweet, you're getting serious. Senator,
when Jimmy comes back, we're going to have to pitch to him the Force the Retweet campaign.
Senator Mike Lee, Republican from Utah, responded to Khanna's quote post in agreement, writing that the Constitution matters regardless of party affiliation. Representative Thomas Massey, Republican from Kentucky, also praised Khanna's principles in a social media post. Representative Chip Roy, Republican Texas, said he was open to striking Yemen, but questioned why the decision had not been made by Congress. Yeah, I don't mind bombing people. You know me, but you got to ask me first, God damn it. Now, our
Have I ever said no?
I never said no, but at least you can give me a little rub and tug before you yank my chain like that. The ding dang do. All right, so our once and some say future president had something to say. This is back during the campaign. August 2020, that is getting a lot of play right now because it's very prophetic.
Crooked Joe Biden is not only dumb and incompetent, I believe that he has gone mad, a stark raving lunatic with his horrible and country-threatening environmental open borders and DOJ, FBI weaponization policies. He is a mental catastrophe that is leading our country to hell. We'll end up in World War III because of this man, and for no reason whatsoever. Thank you.
Nailed it. Nailed
That's
it.
an
Where's the
evergreen
lie?
video, man? You could drop that anytime. Anytime.
Where's the lie?
Yeah.
Where's the lie? So Danny, what are your thoughts on that? On this courageous stance from our Democratic squad and Donald Trump's seemingly prophetic words now?
Well, certainly reality constantly is turned on its head because wasn't it just the so-called progressives in the squad that were, voting for a resolution that equates anti-Semitism with Zionism? Didn't they just do that with regard to this conflict? And let's be, whether it's, of course, when it comes to Palestine, the immense political pressure of what's happening in Palestine has, of course, forced their hand. It took a long time for Bernie Sanders to even get to the place where he was talking about Gaza. He was having Code Pink arrested right outside of his office door early on. That's how bad things got for him. But really, the entire squad, the so-called progressive Democrats, what have they done? I mean, in the last several years, they've said nothing about U.S. escalations toward China. They've said nothing about this endless proxy war in Ukraine, which has just siphoned billions upon billions upon billions of dollars, killed hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians, and has brought the U.S. and Russia closer to a conflict than ever before. They've said nothing about this. And of course, now that there is absolutely no political benefit, this is the only reason that they're giving lip service to, well, what about the War Powers Act? What about Congress voting on whether the United States uses force? It's only because there's no political benefit. The winds are quite harsh right now. The popularity of the Biden administration has tanked. No one in the world and very few people in the United States have any faith. My wife's a nurse. She works here in New York City. She knows many hardcore Democrats who tell her that Biden is just not someone they have any faith in, trust in, nor are they going to vote for him. We've seen the reports about Michigan and how prominent Democratic Party operatives in the Arab and or Muslim community are not going to be riding with Biden this time around. So,
well, that's an understatement. They're organizing a formal boycott campaign in swing states. They are actually trying to sink him proactively. Yeah.
So exactly. That's the reality that they face. That's the only reason the squad, the progressive Democrats, are even uttering anything about what just happened with Yemen. But we know they've been feckless and completely weak and absolutely unable to stand up to the historical moment and do what needs to be done. And that's just the reality that we've been talking about for many years now. And with Donald Trump, that what has been going viral, of course, is Biden's tweet back in 2020 when he responded to the unilateral assassination of Qasem Soleimani in Iran, which I was in China at this time, and everyone on the delegation, and they were all Americans, except for a couple who were from London. Everyone paused, and I was like, is there going to be a war with Iran at this time? That was how serious that was. And Biden, of course, attempted to use it as a chip for the oncoming November election and say, oh yeah, well, Trump has no right to do this. Well, now it's going viral in 2024 for the exact opposite reason, which is that Joe Biden is now in that exact same spot. So as Jimmy talks about all the time on the show, as you guys talk about a lot, Biden just continues to hand gifts to Donald Trump. This is what the Democratic Party has done ever since Trump came on the political scene, and they just handed him a huge one. Biden just handed him a huge one, as if Biden and his administration needed any other reason to be dismayed about their political situation.
Well, Trump also said the other night in his town hall that he was the first president not to start any wars in 72 years. Is that true? Is it in 72 years? I knew going back to like Ford.
Right. Well, it depends on what your definition of war is. Sure, Donald Trump didn't start another unilateral intervention, but Donald Trump, of course, built on and continued a lot of the wars that Obama left him. And in moments where it appeared that Trump was trying to, at the very least, get some kind of foreign policy signature that will reflect positively on his legacy, which is what all U.S. administrations try to do. It certainly has nothing to do with peace. It's just about maintaining an image. The United States foreign policy establishment basically tied his hands completely and rendered him unable to do that. Afghanistan, Syria, the Korean Peninsula situation, all of those things were just completely, completely stymied. But, the Trump administration also did escalate with China, did escalate with Iran, did escalate with Venezuela, and in many respects, despite his rhetoric, escalated quite intensely with Russia, given the fact that sanctions increased under his administration, as well as the militarization of the region. So while he didn't start any new wars, we can't say, well, there was another country that was invaded because of Donald Trump. The war machine was surely rocking and rolling during his administration. And of course, there's a huge debate about what his role in that was versus what his role wasn't. But we have to be quite honest that he had a pretty significant role in these escalations and the enormous damage that they caused.
So you're saying Donald Trump is no George McGovern?
Yeah, Donald Trump is not a peace candidate in my estimation. But Donald Trump represents, and I do think this is important, he represents the state of the political system of the United States, whereby the only way to render yourself legitimate as a candidate right now is to take some kind of peace position. The rest of politics really isn't going to differentiate. There's no differentiation. But Donald Trump, I believe, has done what any smart candidate would do, which is to flank to varying positions where you can look different from your warmongering opponent. And then, of course, when you win, well, business as usual usually occurs. That's the political situation in the United States still amounts to this, despite the fact that the political system of the United States is in complete disarray and tatters, and of course has left a lot to be determined based upon huge changes worldwide. I believe a lot of the reasons why Donald Trump even pursued anything around the Korean Peninsula, or even talking about Russia in the way that he does, with the attempt to maybe lead to a détente between the U.S. and Russia. Some will say, oh, well, it's to divide Russia and China. I believe all of that theory, while maybe it's in his head, maybe it's in his brain trust's head that that's the case. My opinion on it is that it's the fact that Russia, is a superpower right now. It's the fact that on the Korean Peninsula, you're not going to win a war with the DPRK. There are certain flashpoints in the U.S.'s war-mongering regime that all point to the same outcome we've been talking about. They all point to a dead end and or a complete and utterly disastrous conflict, meaning that there are opportunities to attempt to flank and position yourself in a manner to render yourself legitimate. Presidents need legitimacy. Leaders need legitimacy. And so whatever Donald Trump does is all about that. Whether it comes to pass, that is really not up to Donald Trump. That's really not up to any politician, because at the end of the day, they are controlled by much bigger forces. It's up to people. If we want to take some inspiration, look at what Ansar Allah is doing. Look at what the people of Yemen are doing. When you have massive numbers of people standing for peace, standing in solidarity with, the absolutely most oppressed people in the world, when you have an opportunity to stand up to the empire, you take it. That's what they are doing. So we have something to learn. That's really where power comes from. It doesn't come from these, charlatans and warmongers and liars that sit in Washington, regardless of who they are, what political affiliation they claim they ascribe to.
You heard it here first, folks. Danny Haiphong is no MAGA communist. Can we infer that from your statements, Danny?
Sure. I mean, I consider myself a communist, but really, I do want to say that I'll work with anyone who stands for peace on the issues of peace. We can have debates, discussions. Many communists believe, and this might blow a lot of people's minds. Communists actually do believe that you need to take a public position that unites people across, especially the working class, unite people on these issues. And then when you have issues that you disagree on, you do that in your political movements, in your organizations. You win people over. You don't just go around slamming and, trying to destroy each other or do what we do on YouTube, destroy this, destroy that. When it comes to issues like war and peace, yeah, we do need definitely a broad unity. So most communists would believe this. Most communists hopefully would not be turning anyone away who shows up to a rally for Palestine or a rally to stop the proxy war on Russia or a rally to, stop the escalations in the Pacific against China. Hopefully we wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, no, that's what I found with communists. We have a lot of communists on our channel, I think, because we both have shitty jobs. So they trust us. So they all come around. And yeah, no, that is what I found. I have my disagreements with our communist friends, but they're serious and they're realistic. And they have a real meaningful analysis of society and what it would take to change it in a way that most of the rest of what would broadly be termed the left spectrum don't really have, I find.
Yeah, it is about direction, really. When we're talking about these issues, Yemen, the ICJ, South Africa, what's happening there, when we do come to a position, it usually pushes us in a particular political direction. And then we can build upon that. Then we can start looking at the whys and the how is this happening. And that leads us to a greater level of understanding of the forces, especially class forces, that are dictating the presence of war or the absence of peace, the exploitation of the many and the enrichment of the few. Then we can start to get into how and why that happens. And so that's why it's very important to cover these issues in not just an honest way, but in a way that looks at the actual balance of forces at play and withholds especially the prejudices, the judgments, the hatred, the vitriol. This is what American exceptionalism and the propaganda that comes from the war machine tries to imbue in us, is just a deep hatred of the people of Yemen, of the people of Syria, of the people of Russia, of China, of everywhere in the world, Venezuela, on and on and on. We need to hate them, because if we hate them, then we can surely never unite with them or really anyone else. If we hate them, we can't really unite with anyone when it comes to class interests.
Well, what they do to them, they do to us.
Exactly. Yeah.
All
Repression,
right.
Surveillance, war. Yeah, you name it, it's here.
All right. So, Danny, where can people find you?
Sure. So in about 3 hours and a half, 4 hours from now, I'll be live on my channel, just Danny Haiphong. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Rumble. That's the best place to find me. You can also find me on X at Spirit of Ho, Spirit of H-O. You can find me on Telegram, t.me/Danny Haiphong. And, if you want to support my work, you can do so at patreon.com/Danny Haiphong.
Come see us do a live stand-up show. We'll be in Venice, California, Palmdale, California, Omaha, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Boston, Massachusetts, and we're going to Europe. Do you live in Europe? We're going to be there. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.